Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I got paid on the 31st of July, which means it's time to close out this month with a budget and income wrap up. So if you are into that, please stay tuned because we are going to get right into the video, starting with my bills. So for my bills, I paid for groceries, which was $125. I paid for my blog, and I paid for Netflix as well as YouTube Premium. I paid $15 out of the 20 for Orca, and that pretty much ends all of the bill paying for July. It's kind of weird because I was paid, like I said, on the 31st, which means that today's the 1st of August. So because I was paid last night, I really didn't have much time to do much else with the money except for moving some over for rent, etc. So I'm just going to add also the $1,300 for rent right now because I did pay that. And yeah, that's where we are with our bills. So now we can go on to some housekeeping items. In July, I invested $2,000. I didn't put anything in savings. I did put more money in my vacation fund. Now, this sinking fund here for the cabin trip is done. So we're done with that. But this one, I'm actually saving for 2 vacations. On 7/31, I put another $1,000 in, which gives me a total of $3,000. Now, I have already spent some money out of these sinking funds, and that will be included in the August budget video. But again, sinking funds have really helped with my mental health and just keeping on track with things because I like the idea of not having to think too much about what I'm spending, do too much math. I can just spend it kind of willy-nilly since it's been adjusted for already in the past and really not worry about what my bottom line is looking like. For investments, I did invest some more. So on 7/31/25, I invested $500. And so that puts us at $17,366.67. And right now, the actual amount in that account is in the 19,000s, but I'm only tracking my contributions. And so that's where we are with that. And then I didn't put anything else in my savings account because, again, I am going to try to invest solely for the rest of this year if I'm not doing something for a sinking fund as well as making a big purchase. I'm not going to be adding any more beans for the rest of this year. So now we can get into July and finish out this budget so that we can move on to August with a clean slate. All right, so for my goals, I met every single one, you guys. I stayed focused. July was a hard month. Life-wise, I dealt with a health scare. I had a little bit of stress, and I very much self-isolated, which I think was very much needed. But I didn't falter when it came to my goals in terms of money, in terms of spending, despite having a cabin trip and 3 birthdays within the same week. And I really wholly contribute that to the fact that I had a sinking fund and I stuck to my budget. If I hadn't done that, I don't think this would have been possible. So invest $2,000, keep spending within $600, and start a vacation sinking fund. All of those things went according to plan, which is great. So let's get into the numbers. All right, so here is what it's looking like. I was paid $2,520. Now, this is a little bit more than what I expected. As you guys may have seen in my live stream, I was guessing how much I was going to get paid, and because it was a 3 paycheck month, I thought I was going to get paid $2,460, but they paid me $2,520 twice this month, which is, it's great. So that's where we are. However, I did already do the math, which means it's not going to match between here, and the end, like as usual, basically. So as you can see, I've already calculated all of these expenses. All of my spending was able to be kept on one page, which is fantastic. And the subtotal came out to $521.25 out of $600. So it left me with a little bit under $100, like 88 or so dollars left for the month of July. And I'm going to take that money and carry it over into August to see if it can help me get richer somehow. Now, as you guys can see, like I said, I did all of this math. So let's finish our total actual expenses numbers. So my total actual expense turned out to be $3,434.79, which is crazy because I had to adjust my expenses to add in the extra groceries that I ended up paying, which was another $125. So instead of my budget being $250, it was $375. Even if I hadn't added that, I still would have been under the original amount that I should have been in. And I contribute that wholly to the miscellaneous spending deficit. So with the math here, I actually have a difference this month of money that I can bring over into the next month to help my net worth grow. I have $136.20 left over for the month, which is great. We love ending at zero or in the positive because that means that we really stayed on track. Even though there were some parts of my budget, as you can see here, where I was over budget, there were also parts of my budget where I stayed on track or I was under. And I think it really does help to just keep the big picture in mind when you do go over in one category, that you might not spend everything in another. And this is a prime example of that. So with that in mind, let's wrap up this month. I already did everything in advance, so I won't be wasting too much of your guys' time. All right, so like I said, I already finished the pie chart, the percentages, the math here. I did all of that in my live stream that I posted yesterday. So please take a look at that if you are interested in the nitty gritty of that, as well as a few life and money updates in there. And for those of you who just want me to get straight to the point, this is perfect for you because everything is already done. So I'm just going to go through the pie chart right now and let you guys know where we're sitting at. And unfortunately, in my opinion, leftover was the biggest category. 38.6% of my money was left over, and that is because just a lot of money having to sit because it's not going to be used until next month, September or December. The second biggest was my saved, which I love. I always want saved to be the biggest or second biggest in my categories because I invested $2,000. That helped keep me on track despite the extra income coming in and sometimes having the want or the false need to spend more than I'm actually making. Third was my living, which is 19.1%. Honestly, I don't mind because I'm trying really hard to keep my living expenses around the 20% mark. I don't want it to be any more than that. I know it's not realistic. I know people try to aim for around 30%, but when I can have this upper hand, then I'm going to try to stick to it as much as possible. Pets and self-care and forward were all of the smaller categories as usual. Entertainment as well. They will always be the smallest. It is what it is. I'm not spending thousands on my animals. I'm not spending even hundreds on my at-home sit-down entertainment. And so I'm going to think of a way to maybe change some of these categories so that it's not such an outlier, but that's where we are for July. Now, in terms of the wrap up, the questions, the perspective catching questions here, I do feel that I achieved this month's goals just because, as you guys saw, I was able to check off every box. I stayed focused. I, had a lot of monotony in the month of July outside of the health scare that I did have that came with a new chronic diagnosis. I was able to really hone in and hyperfixate on the goals that I had financially, which was great because also I isolated myself and I had a break from all of the social interactions outside of my family and my husband. I was able to really focus on what I needed to do, and it was a good break. So we're going to be trying to implement those periodically throughout the year. Where did I have the most trouble? Honestly, money-wise, nowhere, but my health did give me kind of a bump in the road where I needed 20 days to recover. And thank goodness I had videos already scheduled and ready for you guys because I couldn't even talk. That's how much pain I was in. And if you want to know more about that, I did talk about it in my live stream that I will, put in this video somewhere. You'll see a card somewhere like on the top of the screen. And if you do see that, just if you're curious, that's where you can get more information on that. What I learned this month by tracking my expenses is that 600 is my sweet spot for spending. I didn't feel any type of pressure to not spend. I didn't feel any pressure to spend. I didn't feel like I had any impulse spends to do. I think this is a good number because I can't fathom actually spending this amount every single month. And I think that's also what made it easy to stay within it. And I think this was a pretty spendy month because of the vacation and the birthdays and everything like that. And it's nice outside. So the fact that I stayed under 600, and I think this is like the second time maybe that I've had that limit, that's telling me that I'm going to just have to keep it at that number. And if I go up to it, that's fine. And if I stay below it, that's even better. What could I improve of this month? Honestly, I think going forward, the best thing that I can do to improve is just to stick to the plan, to keep perspective and to look at the bigger picture. Because when I don't hyperfixate on the little details or the little areas where I might be kind of slipping, there's some slippage or spillage in my progress in one area. If I don't hyperfixate on that, then I can still finish out the month pretty strong. And I like that. So that is where we are for the month. Now, I also moved all of this information to the back of the book because I like to keep track of my total savings, total expenses, and my total income so far. And I did the math for my saving, but I didn't do it for my income. So let's see what we're at right now. And this is all net income. All right, so far for the first 7 months of the year of 2025, I have made $55,533.23. And my savings is about half of that. I'm sitting at $23,666.66, which means I have a difference of $31,866.57. So that went towards paying for bills and trips and all of that stuff. It's not ideal, in my opinion, at least. It's not ideal, but it is, the savings is growing. Last year, the whole year, I saved 15,000. This year, I am slated to save in the 30s as well. So we're gonna see what we can do with this. We're gonna see where we can go with this. I know this number is going to get higher because I am planning 2 more trips as well as a semi-big purchase in August, which I will talk with you guys about in the next budgeting video. And with everything that I've done, the extra 2,000 that I've invested, as well as all the money that I've made this month, that brings my and my husband's total net worth to, my numbers altogether are around $184,000. And this is me underestimating. So it's closer to 185, but it's like 184 and some change. I like to round down just so that I'm not bloating my numbers. And then my husband's total net worth is around $121,000. So we are sitting at $305,000 total of assets. Now, we don't have any debt. We don't own any cars. We don't own a house. We don't have credit card debt. So we are sitting at a solid 305 as to 30 somethings living in a high cost of living city. And so I'm just going to do a little bit of a net worth update every time we do one of these videos just to make it a little bit different. But that is where we are with the month of July. July was crazy, but I'm more interested in hearing how your July went, how you're doing with your planning, if you have any vacation set up, if you had any hurdles that you had to go over like I did with my health, all of that stuff. Leave it in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.